Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at Monero Suite created by someone in the Monero community named Hyundai, which will guide you through setting up a simple Monero node along with extra optional features like P2Pool. Let's dive in. So for starters, this tutorial is for somebody who is using or has access to a Debian-based system, particularly Ubuntu. As you can see right here, I am using this tutorial on an Ubuntu server, but this Docker compose file should work on any Linux-based system, but the instructions on the right here at the moment are particular to Ubuntu-based or Debian-based systems. Now for this tutorial, we are going to specifically be using Docker Compose to run Monero node and all the other software. And this might not typically be how you do it. Usually you would download the binary and run it itself. But the reason why this tool is using Docker Compose is because you can have all of your software in one file, and it makes it really easy to add or remove stuff on the fly. And these Docker images were specifically set up by Seth for privacy, and that's what we'll be using for this tutorial. So let's go ahead and start. The requirements you will need to run this is, for one, Debian-based, probably going to be using Ubuntu-based system. And then most of the instruction on the right, you'll probably want to have at least a decent CPU, nothing too crazy, probably a quad-core. This will be on a Ryzen 7 3700X, which is overkill for the node, but if you want to mine, you definitely want something closer to that. RAM, you'll probably want to have at least a couple gigs of RAM. The node doesn't require too much RAM, but once again, if you're going to want to do extra things, like mining, you might want to have more. And disk space, we're going to be doing a prune node, which should be less than 100 gigabytes, but if you want to do a full node, you're going to want to have at least a 500 gig SSD, most likely. So let's go ahead and take a look at the settings and options we have here. So the first one is Monero node private and public. It's a little bit confusing at first. Private, with this setup, means strictly for the same system that it's running on, and nothing else will be able to access it. Public is, by default, that means any other device on your network can connect to the node, which is what we are going to do. That does not mean that any random person can use your node. If you want other people to use your node, you're going to have to do extra steps and do port forwarding, have a domain, all that kind of stuff, which we're not going to cover. We're going to just set this node up locally so that we can use it with other devices on the same network. So we're going to leave that at public. And prune node, we are going to have this node pruned. We don't want to have to deal with the storage space requirements of having a full node. And prune nodes on Monero are good enough. So we're going to leave that at pruned. Trafic, we're not going to be using Trafic. Trafic is a reverse proxy that would allow you to use HTTPS if you were hosting this publicly. But once again, we're not actually hosting it like over the internet for other people. This is just going to be locally for our local network. So we're not going to use Trafic. P2Pool, I'm going to go ahead and select P2Pool full because of the system I'm using. It's Ryzen 7 3700X. It's got decent hash rate. If you've got a much weaker system, you could choose to use P2Pool Mini. Integrated P2Pool mining. This you'll want to change to however many threads or cores you want to have mining Monero. Since I have a Ryzen 7 3700X, it's got a max of 16 threads. I'm just going to do 8, which is half. And if you've got a quad core, you can do up to 8, or you could do 4. Or if you've got a beefier processor like a Ryzen 7, you can do 16. For now, I'm going to stick that on 8. And of course, right here, your Monero payout address, you're going to want to change that to whatever address you want to receive the P2Pool payout. Monero block, I'm going to check this. This is a block explorer for Monero. It's self-hostable. It's very cool. I'm going to go ahead and disable logging for more privacy. And of course, there's Tor. We're just going to use regular internet for now. Watchtower, I'm going to check that. Watchtower updates the images, the Docker images, when they come out. And AutoHeal is going to help restart any containers if it fails or crashes for whatever reason. So once you've got your Monero Suite up and your terminal or your SSH into your server up, we're going to go ahead and set this up. Now, first thing we're going to do is scroll on here to bash, and we're going to go ahead and just copy all of that. It's going to make sure all of your packages are updated. It's going to check for updates. It's going to install UFW, which is a firewall, in curl. It's going to install Docker and Docker Compose. That allows us to run those containers. It is going to set up the required ports to access the Monero node and use P2Pool. And it's going to create a directory. So let's go ahead and just copy this, paste that using Control-Shift-V or right-click and paste that. We're going to press enter. We're going to type in our password here if you're not root. Type in our password again. Let's type in mkdir space Monero-Suite, and let's cd into Monero-Suite. So next we're going to have to create this Docker compose file. So just go ahead and type nano space docker dash compose.yml. Press enter, and we're going to go ahead and copy this whole thing right here. I'm going to copy that, and we're going to either right click and paste that into here. And one thing to note is that if this is on a server and you want to be able to access block viewer, you're going to remove this part right here, this 127.0.0.0.1. I'm going to remove that till it just has the two 31312 ports there. Go ahead and type Control X and press Y to save, and press enter to save that file, and now we should be good and ready to run it. Go ahead and type in sudo docker space compose up -d. -d will do it in detached mode, so it's not giving the output of every container to your terminal. But we're going to go ahead and run it in regular mode so we can see what's going on. And as you can see, it's pulling all those containers right now. And there's Monero block, and everything's starting up. And looks like Monero D is going ahead and syncing. This will probably take a while, depending on the specifications of the computer you're running this on and internet speed, but you can expect it to take at least several hours to finish syncing. But once it does, things like P2Pool will work. So next, if you're going to want to be able to actually access your Monero node or Monero block, you're going to want to find out the IP address of the server it's presumably running on. If it's local, you're just going to want to use the address 127.0.0.1, but since we're running this on a server on the network, we're going to find out what IP address it has so we can access it. So go ahead in your terminal, once again type in IP space A, and the IP address you're going to want to find is the one that's probably going to be on ENS. It's going to probably start with ENS, ETH, or ENPS. It's going to probably have a 192.168.1. Mine's a 192.168.2.213. This is the IP address of the system that I am trying to use. So you're going to want to copy that, and you're going to want to paste that, or just type it in, and then do semicolon 31312. That is the port for Monero block. Go ahead and press enter. And now you can see as the Monero node is syncing, this will start showing more and more information. We are also going to want to try to connect to our node. So how to do this with Monero GUI on the desktop, you're going to want to come down here and click on network status. Click on, right now we're using a different remote node. Go ahead and click there. This will take you to a menu. Right now we're using the Cake Wallet node. We're going to go ahead and click add remote node. We're going to type in that IP address that we found before, which was 192.168.2.213, and the port you're going to want to put in is 18089. And I'm going to mark this as a trusted daemon and click OK, and we're going to select that to connect to it. And after a couple seconds, it will say synchronizing, and it'll show how far it is out. Unfortunately, we can't use it until it's all the way done, but this is a great way to keep track and see where it's at before it is finished syncing. And of course, if you want to do this on Cake Wallet, you go ahead and open it up and tap on the hamburger menu, go to connection and sync, then tap on manage nodes, and we're going to go ahead and tap the plus right next to add new node. And then we're going to type in that IP address that we got earlier, 192.168.2.213, and then the port 18089. We're going to mark this as trusted, and we're going to save, and we're going to select that. And now it's going to say show the blocks remaining. Now this won't sync all the way yet because our node hasn't finished synchronizing the blockchain itself, but it'll end up finishing that once our node is done. And as you can see, after half a day of syncing, our node is almost done. It is at 97%. Thanks for watching this tutorial, guys. Subscribe to the Monero.com channel for more content, more Monero Minutes, more tutorials, and thanks to Hundayhausen for creating this Monero Suite, and thanks to Seth for Privacy for maintaining these Docker images.